Not knowing.
All right, good morning, everyone. What is it? Is that? Okay, yeah. All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Lamed, I believe. We left off at the bottom of Omar Rabba. So, and away we go. So, Omar Rabba, ha vadai k'mibaylan. This, indeed, we did ask Lagabe regarding this Bryce we were discussing of a person that can make it. The basing goes ahead and makes another shaliach for them. Says kimash based in shaliach b'fana or shulbafan. Now, is that which we said, person is not able to go ahead and deliver it, and he was coming from Medina Tziyam, say b'fanai nafta b'fanai naftam. So he goes to Beis Din and he says, he presents in front of them, and then you appoint another shaliach to go ahead and do it, and he says it's a psak of the Beis Din. So when they go ahead and make another shaliach B, does shaliach A have to be there, or can he just do his testimony, say it was written, signed in front of me, and then go home, and then they find at a later time a shaliach?
You need two agents saying, just passing all that to the next one. That's it. You're gonna 12 agents that you say.
No, you don't need Adam. It's the same Adam of the get. He says the base, and it was written, signed in front of me. This is the get, and it was written, signed in front of me.
A has to be, now B has to.
No, where's their Adam?
Asking.
No, but where? Where?
It's not your.
He has a get. The get is signed by witnesses.
Correct.
So he comes to Basin of 3 people, CRC. Says, I have a get that was written and signed in front of me, and by the husband, and he's believed through Takanat Chachamim that he can say is written and signed in front of me, and now they have the get, and they need to hire another shaliach. So they hire another shaliach. Hey, go ahead and deliver this get. So does the first guy have to be there or not? So Pashta that he answered Ben B'fanav Ben Shalofanav, he does not have to be there whether he's there or not. It works. And Shach B'Samdi also said that's there Ben B'fanav Ben Shalofanav. That the original shaliach doesn't have to be there. All he has to do is just go to Beis Din, do his part, and say it was written signed in front of me. Then he's done. 3 lines to the top of Lamed Amanal. The person says, if I don't come between now and 30 days, it's going to be a get. Now, Asa, he came, all of a sudden the 30th day, but the bridge was out and he couldn't get over. He's yelling, hey, I was supposed to come back. That was my intentions. Just the bridge was out. Amar Shmuel, lo shmei matzi. It's not considered like he's there because we don't care when it comes to Einstein by Gittin, right? And therefore he is divorced. And similarly, he tells her, if I don't go ahead and appease her in 30 days, then it's a get from now. So Azal, he went to go ahead. Okay, I'm a smooth talker on day 29. Azal Paise, he went to appease her, and she was not appeased. So Rav Yaisi, talk about the dinari v'lo paisa, right? So he says, what? Well, did he go ahead and give her, all this gold, and she didn't appease? No, he didn't work hard enough, and therefore it's too bad on him. And he could Rav Yaisi he said, well, what? He has to go ahead and buy her off and give her $1 million and give her gold. He said he was going to go ahead and appease her. He appeased her. She was just being unusually difficult. Unreasonable. So he's being unreasonable. So Haman Damar Yeshos begin to Hakman Damar Enos begin. So the two different Ikadamar is whether you hold on, but even though this was not something that was expected. So even the unexpected, we don't care. If he didn't fulfill the condition, therefore it's a get. Or it was unexpected that she was not appeased, and therefore, it's we'll say that he did what he was supposed to do. Right. Now in Mishnah. Mishnah says, so one goes that he makes a coin goes to a Yisrael, or let's say a Levi, right? I go to Eddie. I say, Eddie, I need $100. I'm a Levi. Do me a favor. Give me $100, and when you have to go ahead and separate your Meiser Rishon, just keep that $100 of Meiser Rishon, and then it's like I paid you back. All right. In other words, so you have it. It's like I acquired the Meiser Rishon and gave it back to you all in one thing without you really having to give it to me and me to pay you now. So the deal is allowed to be struck. And not only that, Eddie, or in this case, the Ani or the Kohen can be assumed to be alive, and therefore the person doesn't, because if the person is not alive, then he can't go ahead and keep the term of the Meiser, right? But if the person is alive, then he could go ahead and keep it. Obviously, the trumah can't go ahead and eat it. He perhaps sell to a kohen, but it's for his to use. But he can assume that they're alive, and this is the connection between the previous Mishnah.
Whether it's be alive or not, we could give the Meister to the Yorshin.
So we'll see.
He
All
did.
right, let's see. All right, good point. So we're not chayshish that perhaps he died, or that the poor person is no longer a poor person. He's now wealthy, so he can't get that Maizrani to keep it, right? Meitzu, if the person did die, if he lent him and then the guy dies, so really he's really out. He's not allowed. He can't collect. But they're not responsible for his debts. Therefore, so if he wants to go ahead and keep it for the debt, he has to basically go ahead and get approval from the Yorshin. Okay, we'll soon qualify these statements. And and let's say the loan was done before Beis Din, and it was like it's almost like a kidney that was done. He doesn't have to get permission from the Yorshin. He can continue collecting from the Trumas Maisos, the situation, even though the guy died, and now it would go to the Yorshin. Fine, that was the mission.
That's always stop when someone dies.
What?
Get passed on.
So we'll soon see. All right, it's a good question. Question is right. We'll soon see. No, it's good. Now, the Afagadoloi Otsuli, we say that, let's say the case of me and Eddie. Eddie acquires the Ma'aser Rishon, right? Even though, right, it never came to my hand and I never returned it. You acquired it automatically. What's the reason why? So 3 theories. Samarab, the Nachmi Kahuna, right? He has the same coin Levi that he always gives it to. So therefore, since he always gives it to him, it's like he gave it to him and then he basically, he gave it back to the lender. We're trying to get out over here. Someone goes ahead and hey, make a kinyan. I tell someone else, make a kinyan on my behalf, right? Go ahead and make a kinyan to acquire this Ma'aser Rishon, and then they automatically just give it over back to Eddie. And Ul Omar Hamani Rabbi Yossi is the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. Omar also a sheino zeicha kazeicha. That in order to go ahead and to open up the lenders to Kohanim and Levim, so therefore we allowed this situation in order that basically the payback for the loan would be very easy. They don't have to go ahead and acquire the Meiser or the Truma and then give it back. Rather, the lender can go ahead and keep the Trumas the Meistros if you lend to a Kohen or Levi. In other words, he separates it and then it basically comes back to him automatically as a loan repayment.
Is this project, if it's not grown yet? It's like the Varshalova.
Yes, even before. Even before. Yeah.
Okay,
Good question.
the thing is that
Because
the
we'll see
Trumas
tomorrow.
and the
Yeah.
Meister still have to be matzah.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
there's
You separate it, right? Plus, also, let's say he's dealing with the Yisrael. Actually, he's dealing with Levi, so he still has to do the Truma, right? It's not everything he's keeping. It's not, he still has to do the Truma Meiser and the Meiser Ani or the Meiser Sheni, but he keeps the Meiser Rishon or he keeps the Truma, whatever it was. Fine. And the Kulu Karav Amri is why? Because like time. So it says, why the 3 different theorisms? So they didn't say like Rab because it didn't mention anywhere that we're dealing with those who he normally gives to. And Kashmul like Amri Mazaka like Adani, he doesn't say anywhere that someone else was Zakat on the third party behalf. And Kula Nami Lo Amri we don't want to have it. Did not want to establish it like Rabbi Yossi, who says that it was a special takana made for lending to the Kohen and Levim and poor people. Hamal is a coin that's a lady that's only liyos mafresh mechalka mafresh alein becheskas shein kayama. So basically, similar to the Mishnah, when it goes out and lends money to a Kohen, Levi, or a poor person, he can go ahead and separate from the portions and then keep that portion, and he can assume that the person's alive. The Taisek Imam Kashar Hazul, and he can go ahead and use the lower, right, a lower market price, and therefore basically that would be advantageous to the lender, because now instead of paying back $5, for a bushel, he's only getting credit for $4 a bushel. He gets more bushels. And the Einbo Mishum Ribis, there is no problem of interest of charging ribis to the borrower. And the Gemara will explain all these cases. Bein Shvis Mishmetaso, and the Shemitah does not cancel its loan. If he wants to go back and retract, we'll soon say who that is. He cannot go back. The deal is the deal. And let's say the guy's crop is not growing in, and he gives up hope of ever collecting on his debt. You can't go ahead and now all of a sudden, down the road, all of a sudden it begins to grow. And he says, oh, good, I can pay back because once he had Yeush, he gave up on the loan, he could no longer collect on the loan. So let's see this case. You can go ahead and use the lower rates. The says Pshita. So isn't it obvious? This is the market, and he can establish that. So even though the markets really haven't been set yet, he can set it at the beginning of the season and get at the lower price. And get the lower price. There is no problem with interest. My time of what is right? My time was the reason. The deal was struck that he would only be able to collect the payment on the let's say on the Truma. He was the Cohen, right? So if nothing grows, the owner or the lender, right, owner of the land, who is also the lender, knows full well that he will not collect a penny, right? If nothing grows. Yeah. So if something does grow, so that's more than really he would have gotten if nothing grew, right? Mm-hmm. So therefore, in this case, right, there's a very possibility that it was going to be zero. And therefore, and he's still allowed to collect more than zero, $100, right? So my time he eats like nami. So therefore, if it was $100, then if I collected nothing, it was right. It would have been fine. So therefore, if I collect $5, it's not like I'm collecting extra $5. So therefore, in this case, right, there is no problem of interest, even if the market goes up. In the the prices go up.
Like it's not even a real loan.
Right.
It's over on it.
Right. The ain't Shmi is special better. So and Shmi does not cancel. Why? Like Karina, but you go right because over there the violation of Shmitas do not press, and over here he's not collecting to press from somebody. He's basically keeping it on his own from his own land, and therefore it's not an issue of loyigos vimba. Laxer in a chayzer. If he wants to go ahead and be chayzer, then he cannot be. He cannot retract. Zu cannot retract. Right. This is the lender saying, you know what? I don't want to collect from from the truma. I'd rather you just pay me back $100 cash. So that he cannot go ahead and a chayzer because once the guy took the money, that's it. Aval, the Kohen, but the Kohen takes the money and he says, you know what? I'm not going to go ahead. Don't collect it from the land. I'll pay you back. In terms of the regular term limits for a loan. The Kohen, who is the borrower, is allowed to go ahead and say, you know what? Don't keep the truma. I'll pay you back like a normal loan. The Tanan, as we go to the Mishnah, if one goes and he gives him the money. And he is not going ahead and make a kinyan on the payros, then Yakalach Sabor, you can go ahead and be chayzer. So too over here, right? Once even he didn't get anything back in return yet, the Kohen, so therefore there was no payment. He's allowed to go ahead and basically change the terms of the deal. He can be chayzer and say either here's your money back, or just do it a regular loan and don't take from my trumas and maasros. And the if they gave up hope from it growing. And he figures it's never going to go ahead and collect it. And then all of a sudden it starts to grow. Then he cannot go ahead and collect it anymore because he already had Yerush. So where it says Pshita, this is obvious. But it says no. Like Tzricha is a little bit of what Ozzy was asking before. Like Tzricha Dikun, right? It started to grow, then it sort of stopped, right? Sort of stopped, and therefore he assumed that the crop was going to die. So Malde Moshe said,
how does any of this work with a Kohen since the Truma itself has Kedusha?
Right, so he would sell it. He can't keep it to eat it, but he could sell it to another Kohen. Right, there is value to other Kohanim in this deal.
Okay.
So Gemara says, so Oju said, maybe the fact that it grew shows that really maybe it wasn't real Yehush, right? And therefore, since it's now in existence, so therefore, then later on, when it does fully develop, right, it started off slow, but it comes back, and now there's a crop, right? So the Kamash Balan, but no, even though it started to grow, and once he gave up, there was wind blast, whatever it was, and he thought it was done, and even though it grew back, he was wrong, nevertheless, he lost his rights. So 3 lines from the bottom, Tanya, the rights of Rabbi Yezer ben Yaakov Heimer, Hamavimas says a Kohen vessel Levi v'Beis one who goes ahead and say Kohen Levi and Beisin. Right, and basically, and to go ahead and collect from the field, right, Truma or Meiser, Umesu, and they died. You can go ahead, since it was done in Beis Din, it says, okay, this Kohen might have died, but there's other Kohanim, he like the other Kohanim sort of inherit him, and therefore the loan is still owed to me, and I can go ahead and he can go ahead and keep it because it was done in Beis Din. That's a ani, but Beis Din, if he goes in and collects with an ani and doesn't a Beis Din, and he dies, mafrisha love, that's ani Yisrael, he can go ahead and collect from it because of the other ani Yisrael. Or now, since there's other people who are suited for this produce, so therefore it's like those people are collecting on behalf of the guy who just died, and therefore he's able to go ahead and keep it in lieu of payment of his loan. So it's machlokes whether we're talking about ani Yisrael, right, the poor people of Israel, or ani Eilam. So what's the difference between ani Yisrael and ani Eilam? So my benayu, what's nav kamina ika benayu, ani kusim. Right, the difference is, right, the kusim, right. What it says, Gary Ariyasen, right, they were converted out of fear. Right, and therefore they're not really converts, and therefore you can't go ahead and collect Meiser Ani on their behalf. And then one says, no, they're considered to be Yisrael, they are converts, and therefore, since those people are around, you can go ahead and collect the Meiser Ani is eligible, and therefore you can go ahead and keep it because they were basically mazaket on behalf of the person who just died. And Hashir Ha'ani, but if the poor person got wealthy, then you can't go ahead and he can't go ahead and collect it anymore if he becomes wealthy. We don't say, oh, there's other poor people, I'll take from them. Right? And therefore he only collects whatever he's collected in the past until the guy got his money. Now he's no longer, able to go ahead and collect the Meiser, and therefore the lender is out whatever money he has not yet collected. So why by Misa do we say a takana? Okay, if he died, there's other ani Yisrael, and they can go ahead and basically, and they can acquire it on the dead person's behalf, and then he acquires it for payment of the loan. So why was there a takana when it comes to death? But when it comes to him becoming wealthy, there was no takana there. Our answer is Misa Shchicha Ashiris Shchicha, right? Someone dying is common, but someone who's below the poverty line is able to collect Ma'asrani, that is not shchicha for him to get out of there. Man, like people say, Chavrek Meis Asher. Right? If someone says your friend died, you should believe him. He's Asher, light to Asher. But if he says he became wealthy, then don't believe him. Right? So it's people die, but people do not change their financial status. Right? To that. So we said if he died, it's not really collectible, and therefore he has to get permission from the Yershin. But if he did it in Beis Din, then he does not need the permission of the Yershin. So Tani within a Brayso and Rabbi Yomer Yershin sheyershu. We're talking about inheritors that inherited. That's the Yershin we're talking about. See, what are you talking about? Right? Are there inheritors that don't inherit? No, he means sheyershu karka v'lo sheyershu ksafim. So here's the chilik. There was a question was asking, but you asked it before regarding a debt. If the person who died leaves over real estate, right? Leaves over land, right? So the son has achrayus. So therefore, since he left land, therefore any outstanding debts from the person that died could be collected from the land. However, if he just leaves over cash or stock or whatever it is, movable object, it cannot be collected. So therefore, in this case, if the guy died and has land, so therefore, since he has land, therefore the lender is able to go ahead and collect his debt, and therefore the lender can continue keeping the trumos or maestros, right? But if he didn't have any land and the guy died, he would not be able to collect anymore, and therefore he's not able to go ahead and keep the trumos or maestros. So that's what it's saying. In other words, the only way you can go ahead and continue taking, even in the case of the Beis Din, right, is if you left over land. Because if you didn't left over land, then all debts are canceled, right? It's done.
What's the reason why karka is different than other assets where?
Because a karka is something that is sheish ba'achrayus. In other words, that is used, as it's not a movable, it's not considered to be as needy and usable, and therefore that a person would give would lend out money based on the fact that the person has assets. And the person didn't have land, he just had some cash, so he knows the cash could be gone tomorrow, right? If he knows he has land, then I know if he doesn't pay me back, I'll be able to collect from the land. So therefore, land is really different than it comes to.
I'm saying from the prospect of the actual people that are going through the debt.
Well, they have the land.
Well, in civil law today.
No, I'm saying, let's say if someone lends something out and the kids, the father that borrowed it died and it passed on to the kids.
Right.
So now they're responsible to actually pay it up because the
Yeah.
father made a mistake.
It was a mistake. He borrowed money. What do you mean?
Okay.
So if he has land, then they have to go
Made a
back.
mistake, but
If he doesn't leave-
investment, whatever.
Well, investment is not, right, no, so if you borrow money from somebody, they have to pay you back.
So to pay it back.
So you can pay it back from their assets, right? If you don't pay them back, then you basically, it's almost
It's
like,
difficult because they can take on that bit of the.
well, it's not difficult, he's leaving the land for them. So, yeah, it's difficult because you say, we thought we were gonna inherit $1 million, it turns out dad owed $1 million, so we got nothing, but
But
that's
that
what it
land
is.
appreciates and he owes back the principal.
You don't pay more than the debt, right? You pay up to the land.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, actually, we'll
So
soon
let's
see
say
about
if
that.
there's no actual fruits that come out of the land, though, if the actual land.
The land is the asset. That's how you collect it. And Amar Rabbi Yonasan, so speaking of this,
Why can't the debt be paid back in the council?
because normally debts are not, when a person dies, you don't go to the urchin for debts unless from a talcum. Only for cargo. That's when it's collectible.
Has to be something you can prove.
Right. Right.
The same as civil law attorney.
Right. So Amar Rabbi Yonasan, Heniach Mali Mechet. So let's say he left a small pin worth, right, a small amount of land. That's all the debt that can be collected is what was left. Malay Kardim was a larger amount of an accident. Malay Kardim. And Rabbi Yonasan Amar, Afilo Heniach Mali Mechet, Gaiva Malay Kardim. Even if he leaves over a little bit, then the Yarshim inheritors, get a little bit, the rough side. How was that? Well, the Katina the Abaye, right? There was the Maisa with Abaye that he once ruled in a case that someone owed $100 and they had $50 with the land. So the guy collected from the debt, he only took $50 of land. And then the Yorshim bought the land back for $50. Now they had the land back. And the guy was able to go ahead and collect the land again for the other $50. So therefore, he was able to collect $100 on $50 land. So you see, Abaye ruled and others rule that even if he leaves over $100,000 piece of land, now they're responsible for the $1 million that the dad owed around that. Fine. So that's the case where they get the short end of the stick. So Yisrael, Shamar Levi. Yisrael that tells the lady. So now we're going to have to figure out this case. He tells Shamar Levi, Meiser Yesh Lecha Biyadi. So you have Meiser, basically, right? Meiser was separated on your behalf in my possession. Ein Chayshin L'Shumas Meiser. We're not Chayshesh. That this is Shumas Meiser Shabbat, right? That is Shumas Meiser, that it's not fit to the Levi. In other words, that it would basically all go to the coin. Because when you take Meister, you take Shumas Meiser, a tenth of that, and a tenth of the Meiser is given to the coin. And Kur, but if he says Kur Meiser, if he says a specific amount of Kur of Meiser, Yeshach Bayadi, then Chayshin Shumas Meiser. We are Chayshin that is Shumas Meiser. So my Kamar, what's this talking about? Someone Abaye, Hachi Kamar. Here comes the first down. He says, Levi Meiser Yesh Lechabiyadi, the Halach Damab. He says, look, you have Meiser, I separated Meiser, it's in my possession. And here is the money for the Meiser. It was $100 with the Meiser. Here's just money, take the money, I'm going to keep the crops. Ein Chayshin Shema Asut Shemas Meiser. We're not worried that once the Levi was told that he has Meiser by this guy's house, he's not going to go ahead and say, oh, so I have $100 Meiser here and I have $900 of Meiser in my other place. Right. I'm just going to make this $100 my Shumas Meiser. And therefore it will be usher to the Baal Abayis because now it's only fit for a Kohen. So we're not quite sure the case. But if he says, but if he tells a specific amount, like $100, right? Not just you have some. Hey, look, and here's the money. We're concerned that perhaps he did indeed do that since he knew the amount. Oh, perfect. That's a tenth of what I own. So therefore, I'll just make the portion that you're keeping me and that you just paid me for the Chumas Meiser. Mara says, are we dealing with the Rishayim here, right? He gives me the $100. He says, okay, this $100 I'm keeping. And then I turn around and I make that the Chumas Meiser and I still take the money for it. And I don't tell him. We're not dealing with Rishayim. That can't be the case here. So Yisrael told the son of Levi, he said, Meiser le'avicha b'yadi. So you have mice of your father's is here, which you just inherited. So hey, look, no, here's the cash for. I'll just keep the crops. Here's the money. Here's some money for it. Since the father knew about that mice are there, we're not chayshish. The father took chumas meiser from that. But if he says core meiser lavicha biyadi, but if he told him a specific amount, then he gave the money. Then then perhaps the father didn't know. He thought it was going to come to him eventually before he died. Maybe he made that part the chumas meiser, and therefore maybe not. So now it's usher. When it says so normally when one takes Trumas Meiser, he takes Trumas Meiser from the Meiser that's all in front of him, right? But normally what a Chaver doesn't do, right? Someone who upholds the strict law is he doesn't take, say, this portion, and this block is going to be my Trumas Meiser, and all my other stuff is just the regular Meiser. He doesn't do that, right? Well, if he wants to take Trumas Meiser from here, he takes 1/10 from here. If he wants to take Trumas Meiser from there, from his Meiser, he takes 1/10 from there. But he doesn't take this from there. So in this case, why would you think that the father did the wrong thing by making everything in the other guy's possession Trumas Meiser for his Meiser in other locations? So that can't be the pshat. Salam Ravashi, Haki Kamar. Ben Yisrael Shemar Levi. So the son of Yisrael, or Yisrael who says to Levi, Kach Amar li Abba, this is what my father told me on his deathbed. This is what Yisrael is saying to the Levi. Meiser l'cha biyadi, right? So your Meiser, Mr. Levi, right, is in my possession. Or Meiser l'avicha biyadi. All right, or the Meiser of your father is in my house. Chayshishin l'chumas Meiser shabo. Kevan delay case. Well, we're assuming that he can't keep it all because he didn't take Chumas and Meiser yet. No, this Chumas Meiser, it's still part of this Meiser. It's not all Meiser, Rishon. It's not in Masakin. And Keva, why is that? It's like Keva and the law kites, like I'm Masakin, right? Balabais. Since it wasn't a specific amount, so he didn't know how to take Chumas and Meiser. He didn't know how much Chumas Meiser to take from it. So therefore, it still remains untaken from. But if he says
he's supposed to take 1/10 of the
right, but he doesn't know. The father couldn't have done it, right? No one could have done it, right? If they didn't know the amount. So if they didn't know the amount, they would have waited until they received it and not separated it when it wasn't in front of them, right? Because it's an unknown amount. But if he says to them it was a known amount, kur ma'aseh l'cha biyadi, right, or kur ma'aseh avicha biyadi, right? There was a kur, right, in my hand, in my possession, or the kur of your father is ma'aser in my hand. We don't believe that it's Chumas Meiser. We're not considering Chumas Meiser because it must have been just the Meiser, all Meiser Rishon, and Chumas Meiser was already taken out because it was known about, right? Since he knew how much it was done by the Balabais. Mar says, understand, it didn't come to the Levi yet. So how could the owner go ahead and separate the Meiser and the Chumas Meiser from the Meiser? How could he go ahead and do that? It has to go to the Levi. So what are we saying that it was already taken out for the Levi? Was the fact of the Balabais?
The owner can separate Trumas Meiser. The Truma from the Meiser.
I mean Chumas Meiser?
The Trumas Meiser.
But if that is, he goes to the Levi. The Levi has to separate it. But you agree with somebody. Says,
he can do it on behalf of.
He cannot, according to most shittas. This is the Das Yakin right now. We're going to say, he can't. Can an owner go ahead and separate Meiser and then take from that Meiser Chumas Meiser to give to a Kohen? Yes, it's Abba Elazar ben Gamlahi, right? It's the sheet of Abba Elazar ben Gamlahi. The time when it writes Abba Elazar ben Gamlahi there. V'nechshav lachem Chumas Seichem. Right, you should go ahead and basically you calculate it, right? Your trumas ma'asechem, which is plural, right? Your trumas. What do you mean trumas? This is truma. You only give one truma, not multiple trumas. So, it says the stage trumas are custom medaber. The Torah is talking about two different trumas. Right, achas truma gedela. One is the regular truma, let's say the 2%. The achas trumas meiser, and the other is trumas meiser. You separate two trumas. And kishem truma gedela nitalas made the machshava, and just like the truma gedela can be separated by the balabayas, right? Even estimating and machshava. Trumas meiser. So too the trumas meiser, when it's separate from the meiser, and he tells beyond machshava can be done approximating and also just with thought. And just like a balabais is able to go ahead and separate the 2% for the Kohen, or Truma Gedolah, so too he's able to go ahead and separate the Trumas Maaseh. So yes, indeed, as Eddie pointed out, there is a Shita. It's just not the Rabbanan. It's Abelaz ben Gamliel, and that's who our Brisa was going like. And we'll stop here at the Mishnah. Everyone have a lovely day.